employee turnover, great example.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to improve our our recruitment process because, well, obviously the people are leaving, so the people we're bringing in are the problem. Not realizing, well,
Yeah.
if it's a turnover problem, it's because you're having a retention issue. And retention might come from you're not providing people with what they need, you're not communicating clearly, you're not providing strong enough onboarding. And if we're collecting, but if we're not trying to gather that kind of information about those underlying problems that are causing the pain points that we're having, then we're using almost this like I said, this overwhelming amount of data that's showing us, that's really highlighting the pain points. And that's something to really caution people about too, is that if you're doing that broad strokes, collecting all the data that you possibly can, and and then you're trying to analyze it, and you're seeing a lot of the pain points coming up, then you might realize, well, okay, the pain points are the things we have to focus on and prioritize, which makes logical sense, especially if you're trying to use the data to help you guide your decisions. But if you're not able to analyze, or you're not collecting the right kind of data or information or evidence, then you're going to start chasing pain points, and you're never going to get to the root cause of the actual problems that are actually affecting you. Because if you don't have a good strategy for different types of data collection, or different types of strategies around the way that you're diagnosing the issues in your workplace, I mean, that's why we call the podcast Diagnosing the Workplace, because this is a really important thing to consider, is that you really want to make sure the pieces that you're collecting and the problems you're trying to solve are kind of aligned. And they might sound like, well, duh, but sometimes I think that misalignment is a fundamental core problem that most people don't realize they're running into.
It is. And it comes up a lot in discovery calls that we have with folks. When they're coming to us, they're usually coming to us with a pain point.
Right.
Where your pain is happening is usually the symptom, right? Just like in terms of, if we're looking at a medical analogy, your pain is caused by something. And yes, it's important to alleviate that pain, but if we don't get to actually what the cause is, then it's just going to come back. We're just going to be masking the symptoms until it gets worse. And your comment reminded me a lot about a conversation that I had at a discovery call months ago with an organization that was having that same type of, they were in a significant growth stage and needed to recruit people and couldn't recruit enough people fast enough. Right. And in our conversations, they said to me, the problem is the people, we're bringing people in and they're staying for less than a year. So we're constantly having to replace those people. So we're hiring the wrong people. Mm-hmm. So how do we hire the right people? That was the pain point that they had identified.
Right.
The problem with that approach was when I started asking them about why people were leaving, they didn't really have an answer to that. When I started asking them about their workplace culture and, what it actually looks like day to day, try to, have that conversation, get a little bit more information about it. They were really focused only on the pain. The pain that I'm experiencing right now is that I can't recruit people fast enough. So it was kind of this back and forth of trying to help them understand that we need to actually look at, we can help you with your recruitment. That can be the outcome that we're working towards. But in order to actually fix the problems that you're having of, bringing people in and them just out the door in less than a year, we need to look at what's happening in your workplace that's driving people away. So we need to actually start with a bit of a diagnostic. And this was the problem that we had in our conversation, was that they were convinced they had enough data. We've got so much data, we don't need to go do another data collection activity because we've got all of this data. I was like, great. So what's your data telling you? They weren't putting it into place. They were collecting all of this data, but they weren't using it, or they didn't know how to use it, or they were collecting the wrong type of data that doesn't actually help to identify the problem. And I see this happening fairly frequently, that we think that collecting data for data's sake is what we should be doing. And if we have all of this data at our disposal, then I'm a fairly intelligent person. I should be able to pinpoint exactly what the problem is. And yes, if you have the right type of data, you as an intelligent person can probably pinpoint what the problem is. But how do you know what you're supposed to be collecting? This is where targeted interventions, targeted diagnostic tools are really the most important thing that you can focus on.